My wife's ex sent me her old tapes before the wedding, then she got pregnant on a trip, and he sent me a new one. Just a heads up, this is going to be a long story, and I'll try to keep it detailed but still straight to the point. I'm 27, and my wife is 32. We've had some relationship issues that I believe trace back to her ex-boyfriend, and honestly, I think those problems still linger today. To give a bit of background, we first met while we were both studying abroad and working part-time at the same restaurant. I'm from Australia, and she's originally from France. After a few shifts working side by side, we became friends, and before long, that friendship turned into dating. I was 19 back then, and she was 24. We dated for a little over 3 years before deciding to move back to Australia together. 2 years after settling in, we got engaged and started planning our future. Things started to unravel right after we announced our engagement on social media. Like most people, we posted about it online to share the news. A week or so later, I got a message request from an account I didn't recognize. I noticed that both my fiancé and this person followed each other on Instagram, so I figured it was probably one of her old friends or maybe a family member. At the time, I'd already received over 100 sweet messages from her relatives and friends congratulating us, so I just assumed this was more of the same and accepted the request. But instead of a warm message or a quick intro, I got hit with a bunch of screenshots. The chats were all in French, followed by a message saying I needed to read them to see what kind of person my fiancé really was. It felt off from the start, but I assumed maybe it was just someone who didn't speak English well trying to share something nice. I decided to translate the screenshots, expecting silly or sweet conversations. What I found completely blindsided me. The chats were between two people talking in detail about their sexual experiences, what they'd done, who they'd done it with, and even mocking how Asian guys, which I am, were supposedly inferior to white men. My heart sank. I messaged the person back asking who the conversations were between. Their reply? Your new soon-to-be wife, followed by 3 sex tapes. I was stunned. All I could think was that she'd been cheating on me. I sat there in complete disbelief. Later that night, after she had gone to sleep, I made the tough decision to watch the videos, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know if it really was her. To my heartbreak, it was. The first 2 videos showed her with the same guy. The third had someone else. Watching the woman I had loved for years be that intimate with not one but 2 different men shattered something inside me. What hurt the most wasn't just that it was her, it was seeing her do things she never once wanted to try with me. Even after 5 years together and being engaged, there were things I'd asked to try in the bedroom that she always turned down, but there she was, doing them in those videos like it was nothing. I couldn't sit on it anymore. I stayed up all night, trying to figure out what to say, and finally woke her at 6 a.m. I showed her everything, the messages, the videos, and asked her to explain. Her reaction was immediate. She started hyperventilating, then broke down in tears, apologizing over and over, begging me not to leave her. It went on like that for a solid 10 minutes. Once she was able to calm down, she swore to me she hadn't cheated. She said those videos were from before we even met, and that she had no idea they still existed. As for the messages, she said they were just conversations between her and her best friend where they used to talk about everything, sex, past relationships, all of it. She said it was so long ago that it felt like another version of herself had written those things. She said reading them now filled her with shame and regret. To back up her claims, she showed me the old chat logs between her and her friend and pointed out the exact same sections from the screenshots. They really were from before we got together. Then she told me that the guy who sent everything was her high school boyfriend back in France, someone who had emotionally and mentally manipulated her during their time together. She said she did things for him just to feel loved or validated, and that he made her feel like she had no choice. She had no idea how he got a hold of those old chats or the sex tapes, especially since he wasn't even in them. Eventually, we figured he must have somehow hacked her account. She explained that the guys in the videos were 2 Korean guys she briefly dated when she first moved overseas. Hearing all that did bring me some relief, but it didn't erase what I saw or how it made me feel. I tried to move past it, pretended everything was fine, but the truth is I couldn't look at her the same. I know people say body count shouldn't matter, and I used to agree, but after reading how many guys she'd been with and seeing what she did with them, it seriously messed with my head. What really got to me was that she had lied about it. We'd talked about our pasts before, and I had never cared what her number was so long as it was honest. But now I knew not only had she lied, but some of the men she'd been with were people I actually knew and had considered friends. That betrayal hit hard. Eventually, I told her how I felt. She broke down crying again and asked if we should call off the wedding. I told her we shouldn't rush into anything yet, that maybe what I was feeling was temporary and I just needed time. Part of me still hoped I'd be able to work through it. And the truth was, I dreaded the idea of having to tell my family and friends why we suddenly weren't getting married. We decided to try couples therapy, hoping it would help us sort through everything and still make it to our wedding date. To our surprise, the sessions turned out to be incredibly helpful. What we both appreciated the most was that the counselor helped us communicate what we were feeling in a way that actually made sense, like she could take our jumbled emotions and turn them into something we both could understand. After 10 sessions of couples counseling, we were given a toolkit of strategies to help rebuild trust and communication. I was also referred to a psychologist for individual therapy, and honestly, those one-on-one sessions helped me a lot. At that point, things between us felt close to normal again, almost like we'd made it through the worst. But deep down, I knew I never fully trusted her the way I once did. Something in me had shifted. Still, we went ahead with the wedding. I kept telling myself that her past shouldn't define how I feel about her now. And part of me believed that if we broke things off, it would mean her manipulative ex had succeeded. It would have felt like handing him a win. About a year after we tied the knot, she planned a trip back to France to visit her family and old friends. I was supposed to go with her, but I had just started a new position at work after a recent promotion and couldn't take the time off. While she was overseas, I got another message on Instagram from the same ex. This time, he said something along the lines of "she only likes you," and then dropped yet another sex tape of her. I watched just a few seconds before assuming it was another old video from her past. I blocked him right away and planned to tell her about it, but life got busy, and I completely forgot. Now fast forward to today. We've been married for nearly 2 years, and she's pregnant with our first child. I went with her to one of her OB appointments, and as the doctor was talking through possible due dates and conception windows, I started doing mental math. Something wasn't lining up. Based on what they were saying, the time frame in which she would have conceived fell right in the middle of her trip to France. I didn't say anything out loud. Instead, I brushed it off, told myself I must be wrong. After all, I've never been great with numbers. But that message her ex sent me came back to mind, and with it, a gnawing feeling in my gut that something was off. Eventually, curiosity and anxiety got the better of me. I watched the video he'd sent again, this time trying to spot anything that could reveal when it was recorded. And that's when I noticed something I couldn't ignore: a small scar in her pubic area. I remembered that scar clearly. She'd gotten it from waxing while we were on our honeymoon. There was no way this video was from before we met. I sat with that realization for a while. I didn't confront her. I didn't talk to friends or family, didn't schedule more therapy sessions. I just kept it to myself. The shame of what I was starting to suspect, the possibility that this baby might not even be mine, was too heavy to share. I've decided to wait until the baby is born before I make any final decisions. Maybe then I'll get the clarity I need. For anyone who's made it this far, thank you. I had to get this off my chest. Carrying this alone was eating me alive. Edit: a few people questioned the timeline, so here it is. We got married in September 2022. Her trip to France happened in mid-December 2023 and lasted about 5 weeks. Her current due date is in late September. Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone who offered support, advice, or even criticism. Reading a mix of opinions really helped me widen my perspective. It's hard to put into words what's happened since I last wrote. I feel like the floor just gave out from under me, and I'm still trying to find my footing. A lot of people pointed out that I should have told my wife about the video right away. Others suggested I check the video's metadata. So, I did both. I started by pulling up the file data. It said the video was created on January 1, 2024 at 1:18 a.m., and it was sent to me 5 days later. I reminded myself that this kind of data could be faked or altered, so I didn't take it as hard proof, at least not yet. After that, I decided to finally talk to her. I sat her down on the couch and followed a script I'd worked on with my therapist. I didn't want to come across as accusatory or confrontational. I wanted to give her control over how she processed what I was about to share. I told her I'd received another video from her ex and explained why I hadn't said anything earlier, first out of disbelief, then out of fear. Then I asked if she wanted to watch it. She said yes, so I handed her my phone, expecting her to take it and watch in private. But before I could even leave the room, she tapped play. As soon as the audio started, I stood up to give her space, but she grabbed my pant leg and started sobbing, apologizing over and over. I tried to downplay it, saying there was no need to apologize if this video was really from before we met, and that I should be the one apologizing for hiding it from her. She looked up at me and asked why I decided to bring it up now. I told her the truth, that something about the baby's due date wasn't sitting right with me. That's when she completely broke down. She held my hand and kept repeating that it was a mistake, that she hadn't been thinking clearly, that she was drunk. And in that moment, I knew. I didn't even need to ask. But I did anyway. I told her to spell it out, or I was walking out the door right then. So she came clean. While she was in France, she ended up seeing her ex, the same one who'd been tormenting me for years. They ran into each other in their hometown's local supermarket, which isn't surprising considering how small the place is, just a few thousand people. They grew up together, went to the same schools, and still share the same friend group. That's how they both ended up at the same New Year's Eve party. And yes, they hooked up that night. She told me he'd admitted to hacking into her Facebook account to get those videos, the ones she had shared with old exes. Though honestly, calling it hacking makes it sound way more high-tech than it probably was. She had never changed her passwords, not since high school, and apparently, her ex still remembered them. Once he got in, he had full access to her accounts. I couldn't believe how careless that was. She broke down and begged me not to go through with the divorce. She tried bargaining with me, said this would be the only time she'd ever cheat, promised she'd be the best wife imaginable, even said I could sleep with other women if I wanted. She went as far as offering to try the sexual stuff I had once asked for, but she always refused. It was humiliating. I told her the only way I'd even consider staying was if she agreed to two things: let me look through her phone and agree to a paternity test. She didn't hesitate on the test, but she did pause about the phone. Eventually, though, she handed it over. As I scrolled through her messages and apps, I found more than I was prepared for. There was clear evidence she'd slept with her ex again on New Year's Day. But worse, there was another time too. I discovered it through her period tracking app. She'd logged everything in detail, even her sexual activity. All I had to do was check the dates when I wasn't in the same country as her. Sure enough, she'd marked the days she had sex while I was gone. She basically documented her betrayal. That was it for me. I couldn't do it anymore. I packed up and left. I checked into a hotel and made arrangements to move into an apartment I had been trying to rent out. I also contacted my solicitor and started the early steps of filing for divorce. In my country, we have to go through mandatory marriage counseling before it's official, so I agreed to do that. It's scheduled to begin in October. We also agreed to do the paternity test as soon as the baby was born, and I even arranged for her parents to fly into Australia early so they could be with her and support her. Update 2: it's been a while since my last post. A lot has changed, and I've gotten messages asking for an update, especially about the paternity results. So here it is: the baby is mine. I was with her in the delivery room when our son was born, and I stayed with them in the maternity ward for 5 days. The moment I saw him, I had a strong feeling he was mine. He looked just like I did as a newborn, only bigger. Still, we went ahead with the test. About a week after the swabs, the results came in and confirmed it: I'm the biological father. Before the birth, we'd been living separately. The only communication we had was through short, daily texts from her saying things like "hope you're well" or "good night." After our son arrived, I started going to her place regularly to help with feeding and diaper changes, but even then, we barely spoke. Our main interaction was once a week for the mandatory counseling sessions, which were required for the divorce process. Honestly, those therapy sessions became their own kind of nightmare. We saw 2 different psychologists from 2 separate clinics. Both made me feel like I was the one being unreasonable. One of them even told me I shouldn't expect monogamy in a modern marriage, and that really pushed me over the edge. The first therapist mostly guided us through how we felt, chiming in now and then to keep things moving. At first, I thought it might actually help. But then she suggested we consider bringing other people into our sex life as a way to reconnect and understand each other better. That was the last straw. I started looking for another therapist immediately. The second one wasn't any better. Over 2 sessions, he tried to convince me that open marriages are totally normal now, and that I'd be selfish to raise the baby without both parents in the same house even if the child wasn't mine. This was before the paternity test came back. After that, I was done. I told my wife I'd only pause the divorce if she agreed to sign a postnuptial agreement. To my surprise, she signed it right away. That contract protects my assets for when I eventually do file. My plan is to wait a year, at which point I can divorce her without needing counseling. That's when I'll go through with it. For now, I've moved back into the house, but we're sleeping in separate rooms. I only came back to make things easier for my son. Being there daily allows me to take care of him, especially when my wife or her parents need a break. After nearly a month of being hands-on, I know I want to stay in his life. I believe it's my responsibility, as his father, to give him the best life I can, no matter how uncomfortable it is to still live under the same roof as his mother. What I'm struggling with now is how this will work after the divorce. I worry about what kind of effect it will have on him emotionally and mentally. Are there other people out there doing this, co-parenting with someone who betrayed them? If so, how are you coping? And for those who've asked about my love life, there's nothing to report. I haven't even thought about dating or sex since I found out what she did. That part of me is just shut off.